Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Brand Identity Design Business Podcast. My name is Jason. I'm your host, and we are been doing this series. I have been personally doing this series called as the Dark Side of Entrepreneurship. For almost 1.5 years now, I have done almost 100 plus episodes, 8,000 minutes of content already created related to business. The aim of my show is to educate entrepreneurs about business, share ideas, recommend strategies, how to deal with adversities while running business, give tips, share strategies as to how to make more money, stuff like that. And I do this by interviewing high level business executives who share their personal and professional stories. In case if you're new to this live podcast stream, which we are doing on LinkedIn audio, my podcast is heard in over 23 countries. Currently ranks on Spotify on the top 30% most followed business podcasts. Additionally, I had the opportunity to win an award from Spotify. It's called as the Anchor Spotlight Awards. They have recently changed from Anchor. I think they call it as podcasts for podcasters something. I think they have changed the name. So, just recognizing its excellence and contribution to the podcasting industry. I can assure you this won't be just another boring business talk show. If you're new, we will be injecting a healthy dose of humor and personality to this mix, and you will be learning a lot about entrepreneurship today. So sit back, relax, get ready to laugh and learn with us. All right, now before I continue, I wanted to discuss something really personal, a personal topic before we start our show that had like a really profound impact on me recently. Now, as some of you guys would know that life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way. And today I want to share a story about someone who was once a very important figure in my life, a mentor, a friend, someone who I deeply admired. Unfortunately, due to various circumstances and personal issues, we kind of grew apart and we stopped communicating with one another. Just yesterday, I received a devastating news from a close friend of mine, and she stated the person who I once held so dear has actually passed away. This news has shattered me emotionally since morning, and it made me realize the weight of unresolved feelings and importance of forgiveness and reconciliation. Now, what I want to say is that we often find ourselves entangled in misunderstanding, disagreement, conflicts with people we care about. We let anger, resentment, and pride take over, allowing these negative emotions to drive a wedge between us. In the end, we may lose the opportunity to mend those relationships, to say things we truly feel, and to find closure. The passing of my dear friend has taught me such a valuable lesson, the one that I want to share with you all today. Life is fragile, time is precious. We never know when we might lose the chance to express our love and gratitude and even forgiveness to those who matter the most to us. So listen, my dear listeners, please listen to me. I implore you to take a moment, reflect on your lives. Are there any unresolved issues, strained relationships that you have been avoiding or neglecting? Is there someone you care about, someone who once played an important role in your life, with whom you lost touch? I encourage you to reach out to them. Take the first step towards healing those wounds, mending those relationships, cherishing the time we have with the people we hold dear. Life is too short to hold any grudges, to let disagreements define our connection. So, I wanted to share this message in the honor and memory of my dear friend. Remember, it's never too late to say things that needs to be said, to show love and appreciation and to find closure. Life is a journey. It becomes richer when we share it with others. Remember that, guys. So on that note, let's actually start our podcast. Let's actually move ahead with our today's show. Today's topic, okay, as you guys may have correctly guessed, it's the title of the show, Storytelling for an Effective Non-Profit Marketing. I've never interviewed anybody who is into marketing, but marketing for non-profits. I have a lot of interesting questions which I want to ask my guest, who is incredible, Julia Campbell. Because she I want to ask questions which comes from for-profit business as well as non-profit business. It interchanges a lot of things. Now, this event is actually suitable For nonprofit professionals, marketing enthusiasts, or simply anyone who is passionate about making a difference, this episode will equip you with storytelling techniques needed to create a meaningful connection and impactful change. If you're wondering who Julia is named as a top thought leader and the one who followed by Forbes and LinkedIn for nonprofits. Julia Campbell is a nonprofit digital consultant, speaker, and author on a mission to make the digital world a better place. She's also the host of the acclaimed Nonprofit Nation podcast. I personally had the opportunity to go, and listen to some of her previous episodes. I really loved it. I love the message she's trying to share here. It's pretty cool. I would highly encourage you to reach out to uh, Julia, get the podcast information, and please follow her podcast along with mine. She has written 2 books for nonprofits on social media and storytelling, and her online course, webinar, and talks have helped hundreds of nonprofits make a shift to a digital thinking. So, I wanted to personally say, Julia, let's let the people, let's actually make some noise for Julia. Thank you, Julia, for joining my podcast.
Oh, wow. Applause. I love it. Thank you. And Jason, I'm so sorry to hear about your friend. Thanks for being so vulnerable and sharing that. But I'm really sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your understanding here. So I know you guys are listening. Listeners who are down in the audience, 26 listeners we have. I would encourage you to invite more people to join this conversation. So if you feel anybody would get value from this conversation, please do not hesitate to use the share button or send them a DM directly and ask them to join. All right, so let's actually start this interview. Now, in the realm of marketing, Julia, non-profit organization or for-profit companies, they often have distinctive approaches and objectives, right? However, there can be valuable lessons and insights to be learned from both sectors, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
With your expertise in
Yes.
non-profit marketing, I'm curious to know what is one key strategy or techniques from for-profit marketing that you believe non-profit organizations can adapt, draw inspiration from, to enhance their marketing efforts and drive a greater impact? I know it's a lengthy question, but I hope that makes sense.
Yes. So I am not one of those people that believes that nonprofits should act like businesses, but I do think, like you said, there are some strategies and techniques and things we can learn, certainly from like effective marketing campaigns in the business sector and the for-profit sector. So the probably the most notable is just the for-profit, the business industry's willingness to take risks. So they're willing to, jump on new platforms. They're willing to try new things that could be seen as risky. Even the big brands, like they are willing to do things that are a little bit outside of the box and explore, new tactics and new techniques. Whereas I find that nonprofits are very kind of gun shy. They're very hesitant to take these kinds of risks because they don't have unlimited revenue, they don't have unlimited resources, and they don't have unlimited staff to do these things. The other thing is that the for-profit industry really does take marketing very seriously. Like they understand that it is a pillar of their business. And if people do not hear about their business, it's not, it's money's not just going to rain down from the heavens. So they take it incredibly seriously. They invest time, they invest effort, they invest training, professional development, and they invest a lot of resources in it. And I really wish that the nonprofit sector would take a cue from what the for-profit industry is doing and just really look at marketing as a key pillar of keeping their organization sustainable.
I was trying to find the mute button. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. I do that all the time. I do that literally all the time. And I start talking and I'm like, wait, no one's listening to me.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I totally agree that, for profit businesses are willing to take risk. They have more leverage, they have more room. Okay, and I totally agree with you that, non-profits should also adopt that ideology. and those strategies, those outside the box thinking, and apply some of these things. What do you think could be one of the reasons why it has not been adopted yet? Like, see, people who work for
Yes.
non-profits may also work for businesses or other organization they might be employed at. They may have additional businesses they do. What could be one of the reason why you may think adoption process may have been delayed this long, and why people may not have taken fully advantage of this? I'm just curious. I don't know
Exactly.
exactly. I'm just putting it
Yes.
out there. What do you think?
I think there's two main reasons. The first reason is that from what I have seen in the sector, and I worked as a development director, fundraiser, marketer for years before I started my consultancy. And I've been a board member and I still volunteer at various organizations. But the one of the two reasons is that we do not have the training in the sector. Like you go to business school, you get an MBA, maybe you get a degree in marketing. But in the nonprofit sector, what happens often is that people are social workers or educators, or they come from, they volunteer, and then all of a sudden there's an opening for the fundraising position. So they apply for the fundraising position. Then all of a sudden there's an opening for an executive director. So they apply for the executive director. There's not like a clear trajectory and a clear nonprofit industry that I have seen. There's certainly professional development out there, and there are courses in, nonprofit management. I have a certificate in nonprofit management, but it's not the same way that it is in business school, where you go to business school, you find your vertical, and you go into a business and you do it. And I think that the training, the lack of that sort of journey and clear trajectory really hampers us, because what happens is that I've seen this myself when I was the development director. The marketing all just fell on me. I was supposed to do the fundraising, the events, the marketing, the volunteer coordination, the board management, all of it, because it was sort of everything but the real programs. And I just see that the lack of investment in training in the sector can be really hampering. And then we just don't often know how to do it. So you end up with people that have really big hearts and really want to make a difference in the world, but they don't necessarily have marketing skills. So that's kind of the first reason. The second reason we're so slow at adoption is just this feeling that we have to absolutely steward our donors' dollars in the best way possible. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't steward your donors' dollars in the best way possible, but what happens is we start thinking, "Oh, it's overhead," right? It's overhead, that horrible word where it's heaven forbid we pay for salaries, and heaven forbid we pay for like printing a flyer, because that's not a good use of our donors' dollars. But the organizations that really do like use the money that's coming in, and then they run these amazing marketing or fundraising programs, they can really like 10x their results. But we have this sort of like, we just have this shyness about really willing to get out there. And the other thing, actually, maybe a third reason, is nonprofits are very, very scared to put themselves and their viewpoints out in the world for fear of pushback, because a lot of what we do is political, it is controversial. There are people that disagree with us. We're afraid of negative comments, we're afraid of trolls online, we're afraid of, we send an email out to our list of 10,000 people, one person emails us back and says they disagree with us, but we're very afraid of that kind of negative connotation. And as you know, when you put yourself out there, you have to be willing to sort of take the good and take the bad. So those are the three things that I've really seen. And in my work, I try to combat that and try to change that mindset.
This is like really helpful because I kind of get an idea, like a clear idea what you're trying to say. So number one, you said,
Yeah.
is lack of training. Number two
Yes.
is using the donors' money the right way. They might be hesitant to spend it on additional things. What if we can use that money to serve a person, help an individual? That would come in hand rather than spending money on flyers, on building a website, whatever. And third thing which is scared of putting your views as a non-profit organization, putting it across. People might push back
Mhm.
and may not agree to you. So, so I get your point. This is super cool, and I hope you guys are liking what you're hearing. Please throw in some heart emojis if you're liking what you have heard so far, so that we know we are on the right track with
Yay.
this interview. So I have a few likes, few hearts, okay, a
Love
few
it.
more.
Thank you. You might be seeing this in your work too. I mean, this does affect the for-profit sector, but I do think it affects the nonprofit sector more. Maybe it's more common.
Yeah. So let's actually move ahead. Let's talk about resource constraints a bit more. So,
Yes.
as you correctly said, resources are limited compared to for-profit companies. In your experience, what innovative strategies have you seen over the course of time nonprofits have employed to overcome such limitations and to achieve an impactful marketing outcome?
Well, there are quite a few organizations doing innovative marketing and fundraising work. And one, of course, I would be really remiss not to mention the organization Charity Water. So if you work for a small nonprofit, I don't want you to tune out and say, oh, Charity Water has millions of dollars and is really popular and this and that. Because, of course, like everything, they started from nothing. And Charity Water, their entire philosophy is they want to make fundraising fun. They want to make fundraising enjoyable and fun. And when Charity Water was developed, Scott Harrison, who is the CEO, and he wrote a book that is incredible. I think it's called Thirst. It's all about the concept that he had when he started the organization. But the piece that I want even smaller organizations to take away is they did not want fundraising to be like in the olden days when you would feel really guilty and you would go and you'd watch the videos of the children in an African village with the distended bellies and the flies all over them, or the Sarah McLachlan ASPCA ad where it's playing the arms of the angels and it's showing all of these abused dogs and cats. Charity Water really didn't want to use that guilt model of fundraising, and they wanted to have fundraising and giving money and philanthropy be more joyful. And it really changed the way a lot of fundraising is done. So they created this model of donating your birthday, where you would donate your birthday, and instead of birthday presents, you would ask your friends for donations. Now, that seems pretty prevalent now. Like it seems pretty common. Facebook adopted the donate button where you can easily start a fundraiser on Facebook and Instagram for a charity of your choice. And you can invite your friends and say, hey, instead of giving me like a painted wine glass for $28, why don't you, donate to this charity that I love? So they really reinvented the whole notion of peer-to-peer fundraising, which is a really effective form of fundraising. And then it's also an effective form of marketing, because if I donate my birthday and I put on Facebook, I mean, at this point on Facebook, I probably have 5,000 connections, right? Or I put it on LinkedIn or I put it on Instagram and I say, this is a charity I care about and this is why. That's effective marketing, because even if my friends don't make a donation necessarily, they'll learn more about the organization and they'll know what it means to me. So I think Charity Water is one of the most innovative charities, and they also really focus a lot on technology. So making giving incredibly easy. Like, why not do it from your phone? The old websites where you had to click through 50 pages, fill out a form that had 30 different fields, give like your firstborn child before you could make a donation. Now it's really, text to give, giving through social media, giving on mobile platforms, making it as easy to give. Just like, when you go on Amazon, like you can buy things in literally one click. Like, why can't we make giving like that? So there are a lot of organizations that are trying to become mobile first and adopt the technologies that we use as consumers, because of course, donors are consumers as well. We all have like Netflix and DoorDash, and we all expect things to happen in 2 minutes. So I think Charity Water is one of the best examples. There are a lot of national organizations doing this, but they really are at the forefront of both using, peer-to-peer strategies and also technology to sort of drive impact.
Those are some really great examples which you have shared, especially about charity water. And I really like, I think it's pretty cool. Okay, if non-profits can make the whole process look fun, exciting, and cool, I think
Mhm.
it's gonna attract a lot of interesting audience as well. Let's
Yes.
shift this focus on research and customer insights. Let's dive into that. Now, for
Okay.
many profit-based companies invest heavily in market research and consumer insights, right? How
Yes.
can non-profit organizations, according to you, Julia, leverage similar research techniques to better understand their target audience and tailor their marketing message effectively? What do you think about that?
This is so important. This is so, so important. And this is exactly what I teach. And this is what I work on with my clients, because understanding your target audience and tailoring your marketing message, that is the key to success. What I see happening is that organizations have a lot of messages they want or need to get out into the world. So they have an event, or they have a fundraising campaign, or they have a new program, a new press release, a new board member, and they want to kind of push these messages out. And then they come to me and they say, why is no one paying attention? Why is no one liking? Why is no one opening our email? Why is no one making a donation? And it's because they're really, like, they're going about it in a backwards way. So, researching your target audience, there are so many different tools available to you. What I like to teach, I teach, looking at your social media demographics first, if you're on social media, seeing who is there, what kinds of content really resonates with them, what posts do they like, who are they really at the end of the day, like where are they based, what time are they online, what age group, what demographics. And you can get so much information just from the tools you already use. You can also get this information from certain CRMs. So I partner with Neon One CRM, and they have they do a ton of donor analysis, data analysis, and you can really get that information on the back end, like how long has someone been making a donation? Have they been interacting with your emails? Did they come to an event? Did they send this to a friend? Like, you can see and get a really good snapshot of the kinds of information that your audience really wants. And then sometimes it's just calling them on the phone, sending out a survey. I mean, really, we don't just have to use digital methods, we can really use analog methods as well to find out more about our audience. And once you clue in, like once you really dig deep into your audience and what they want to hear from you, your marketing is automatically going to become more effective. So, do they want education and research? Like, maybe you are on the forefront of education and research in your industry. Maybe you're an advocacy organization. Maybe your audience really wants to hear how they could call their legislator, or how they can, sign up to sign a petition. Maybe you're an animal organization and everyone just really wants to know, like, how they can foster a dog or a cat, or what kind of donations they can make to help your shelter run more efficiently. So I think that we have to get out of our own way, and we have to understand that, yes, we have a lot of things we want to say. We have a lot of stuff going on that we want to, get out in the world. But until we truly understand our audience, their wants and needs. And I've been listening to another amazing podcast, Jason. Maybe you've listened to Unthinkable. It's with Jay Akunzo, and he talks about the best kind of marketing has empathy for your audience. So empathy is not sympathy, but it's empathy. It's understanding they're busy and they have a million pieces of information coming at them at every moment, and giving them the information that they want to hear in the way they want to hear it. That's empathetic. And that's also really going to help you build that trust that is so vital for fundraising.
I love what you shared. I'm gonna definitely check out this podcast. You said unthinkable, right?
Unthinkable. Yeah, Jay Acunzo, Acunzo. He's phenomenal. He's one of my favorite marketing thought leaders.
I like what you said also about, have empathy. Having empathy makes marketing a lot more easier, makes a person interested in what you have to say. They will pay attention, they will listen. I like what you have shared. Let's deep dive into social media a bit more.
Hmm.
Now, you did give us the example about Facebook and Instagram having those donate button options you can leverage. So, it is kind of a powerful tool, like social media as a whole. When it comes to marketing, it is a powerful tool, right? So, for
Yes.
profits as well as for non profit, it works for both. What unique challenges have you noticed non-profits face while utilizing social media platforms? And what strategies have you found effective in navigating those challenges?
I love this question. I think there are three main challenges. Three main challenges. One is confidentiality concerns. So a lot of organizations I work with, they can't necessarily do the kind of storytelling they might want to do on social media because they can't share client faces and names. And there are workarounds for that, and we'll talk about that. So one is probably confidentiality, considering ethics, considering, is it right to be on this platform? And we can't share names and faces. So how are we actually going to build any traction? That's probably the number one. The number two challenge is bandwidth. A lot of organizations just don't have a marketing person, or if they do have a marketing person, they are stretched completely thin. They're doing 10,000 other things. They just don't necessarily have the bandwidth to manage all of these platforms effectively. And then the third I really see as like content creation skills. I mean, if you look at, I'm just thinking who I'm following on, like the brands I'm following now, maybe on Threads or even on TikTok, they all have really great content creation skills. They can make videos, they can respond to memes, they can, edit, they can do all of these great visuals. And a lot of small nonprofits really just don't have that experience. They don't have the skill set. So I think it's a combination of the three. And what I do, the strategy that I teach a framework called the 4 pillars of social media, the 4 things you need to do on every platform to be successful. And if you can't do it on more than one platform, then maybe you should just be on one, or maybe you should work on other things, other fundraising, other resource development until you have the bandwidth and the people to manage it. So the 4 pillars, one is research and listening. So that is looking at what other people are doing online, seeing what other organizations are doing, following hashtags, following trending topics, just kind of looking at, like, for instance, on Threads, right? That's the big new thing everyone is, losing their minds over. So I recommend just being on it for a little while. Just be on it, listen, research. You don't have to post anything. You can just, do your own sort of detective work around what works and what doesn't work, and what you think might work. And maybe at the end of the research, you might find that this particular platform is not for you. But I really encourage doing this really specific, figuring out how nonprofits are using it and if your audience is even on there. And then the second pillar, content creation, you have to spend some time actually creating the videos, the photos, the posts, whatever it is that works on the specific platform. The third pillar, community management, responding to comments, DMs, responding to anyone that is asking you a question, negative or otherwise, following other people. I mean, we have to remember social media is social. So it does take time to manage that. And then the fourth is measurement and analysis. So seeing what you're doing, looking at the data, going in and figuring out what's working and what's not working. And I think the real challenge nonprofits have on social media is that they just kind of throw up a bunch of stuff and they don't have a strategy and they're not really seeing what's working, what's not working, and they're not taking the time to create the content that's specific for that platform. So I always teach those 4 pillars and say, maybe you're just on Facebook and Instagram right now. Are you doing all 4 of these things? And if you're not doing all 4 of them, you're not going to be successful. So don't jump on Twitter, don't jump on LinkedIn, don't jump on YouTube until you've sort of successfully mastered these 4 things on every platform that you're on.
This is
That's a
super
very
cool.
long answer.
Yeah, that's okay, but that's okay. I really loved your answer. And guys, if you want to hear that back again, I would have the recording uploaded shortly. Please follow my podcast. The links are listed on the event page itself. You should be able to find it, and within a few hours, I'll have the show uploaded on Spotify, Apple, and other platforms. So I like what you said about those 4 pillars: research and listening being one, content creation being second, community management being third, and measuring and analysis. So this is some awesome and detailed information which you have shared. I think it's going to help a lot of people
Mhm.
understand, things at a much more deeper level. Now, you did highlight about storytelling in the beginning, why it is such complex. There's a lot of complexities because non-profit kind of organization tackle complex social issues. Can be about environment conversation, it can be about
Yes.
education, can be about healthcare, can be about any of those important and issues. So in the midst of all this noise which is being created in the digital age, capturing people's attention and motivating them to get involved, I think it could be quite daunting. I
Mhm.
think here is could be one of the reason why many nonprofits would lean on to the storytelling direction. I think so. Based on your professional experience, how does storytelling play such a crucial role for nonprofit marketing, and why
Mhm.
it is so important for organizations in this sector to adopt and have something of this sort? And maybe you can share an example, to illustrate this point. That would be awesome.
Of course, I love it. I love talking storytelling. It's really my favorite thing to talk about. Storytelling is vital to any marketing strategy because stories are what connect humans. So it's just since language was invented, we have always shared our experiences and learned from other people, based in stories. And if you think about it, I mean, think about how much we love, television and movies and books. And the first thing you do when you go meet a group of friends is you tell stories about your week. Like, you're not going to share a PowerPoint with a bunch of data on it. You're going to say, oh my gosh, this happened with my mom or this happened with my kids. And it's just a way for people to relate to each other. And it also helps contextualize really difficult issues, like you were talking about, these complex social issues. It helps us understand and make sense of them. Because if we just hear a bunch of data and statistics and numbers, we're not really going to understand the human aspect of it. So it grabs our attention immediately when someone is telling a personal story. Think about the speeches you've listened to, even the podcast interviews. When someone's telling that personal story, you really listen, like your ears perk up. So it grabs attention. But also, what's so interesting about storytelling is that humans are hardwired to remember stories more than any other kind of information. So, not only does it grab our attention, we remember the stories and it helps us process the information that we're being shown. So storytelling is absolutely crucial because the only things that matter in marketing are caring, liking, and trusting. That's it. Like, getting someone to care. Well, you can't really get someone to care, right? You can't. So finding the people that might care and then getting them to like you and then getting them to trust you. And if you're not sharing stories about your work, if you're just talking about your organization, it's not going to get people to like and trust you. They might care about the issue, but they're not going to move forward in that sort of journey along the way. So, actually, I have quite a few examples, but an example of an organization that does phenomenal storytelling, a very small organization, they're based in Boston, called Rosie's Place. And they're an organization that provides shelter, counseling, all sorts of resources to women. They don't receive any government funding, so you can go there as many times as you want. You can be undocumented. It's anything. They welcome their doors. They open their doors to absolutely everyone and anyone, and they will help you get the help and the resources. They connect you to the resources you need. And they do really phenomenal storytelling on YouTube. They use YouTube a lot. Video is just such a fantastic way to do storytelling if you can. So their clients that they talk to about their stories are often alumni. They've been through the program, and now they're out and about, and hopefully leading a successful life. And they also do a lot of storytelling with volunteers and staff members. So if you're a nonprofit that has challenges around telling client stories, look around you, tell your own story as a fundraiser or marketer, tell your founder story, tell board member stories, volunteer stories, tell the stories of your donors, tell the stories of your corporate sponsors. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. So Rosie's Place happens to do a lot of client focused storytelling, but they also integrate other stories into their marketing. And then also another organization that I love is called Amirah, Amirah. And they provide services to people who have experienced sexual exploitation and been victims of sex trafficking. And they never share client names or faces. Like they never have an interview with someone, with a client, a person, a survivor on film, but they tell stories in a third person kind of way. So they say, we had a person come here and now she is getting her GED and she's gotten an apartment. So they do milestone Mondays where they tell these little snippets of stories. They do a lot of storytelling from like the executive director's perspective, the program staff perspective. So there are lots of ways to do it, but something like, I remember when I first heard about Amirah, they help people that are victims of sex trafficking in New England. I never thought that was a thing here. Okay, I might have been a complete moron, obviously, like completely naive. I never even knew it was a thing. So when I first heard the stories, I thought, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that happened in my state. I did not know that happened like in my community. So it really, the stories opened up my eyes to a problem that I didn't even know was occurring. So I think it can really help shed light on these kind of complicated, complex issues, as well as get people interested and activated. Because I certainly was activated by these stories.
I appreciate the example. I'm gonna follow Rosie's Place in Boston.
Yes, Rosie's Place. Love them. They're one of my clients. Amirah is not one of my clients, but I donate to them.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna follow both of them. But I appreciate you sharing those examples. Now let's deep dive because I want to actually address this. I was doing a bit of research before the interview. Okay, I have observed that many individuals start non-profit organization with good intentions. Okay,
Mm.
but they struggle to navigate the complexities of running and sustaining them. Okay, when I researched, there was a staggering number of 1.5 million tax exempt nonprofits in United States and a significant failure rate of 30% within the first year. And this data was
Mhm.
provided by National Center of Charitable Statistics. So it's clear to me that there are challenges that needs to be addressed personally. Taking into consideration these realities, what advice or strategies would you offer to those aspiring nonprofit founders to increase their chances of long-term success and to make a meaningful impact?
Oh, love this question. But I would ask you, what's the failure rate for businesses in the first year? I think it's like 50%,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, we do have to we have to think about, I think the challenges are similar. So, people start businesses because I don't know, they have a great idea or they think they have a great idea, but they don't do the research to figure out, is this going to be viable for the market? And I think the same thing goes for people starting nonprofits. The other thing is, you don't have to start a nonprofit to make a difference. You don't have to have that 501c3 tax designation. Like, you can partner with organizations. You can have a fiscal sponsor so that you can get donations that are tax deductible. There are just so many ways to make a difference. And what's so interesting about that is I think that people, like, I'm Gen X or I'm like an elder millennial, right? People my age, that was what we thought we had to do to make a difference. We were like, oh, you got to open a nonprofit, you got to have a board of directors, you got to have an executive director, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And you have to have a building and you got to do this. I really think kids today, like Gen Z, younger kids, they are doing like GoFundMe's for people and just giving them cash. They are running a coat drive and just giving coats to people. I know in Boston, there's a whole group of college students. They just make sandwiches and hand them out to homeless people. Like, that's what they do. They don't have any kind of designation. So I see the trend actually going the opposite way. I'd be interested to look at that statistic in like 10 years or so, because I see fewer actual physical nonprofits opening, but people doing generosity more in their own way, and doing philanthropy in their own way. What I would say, if you're in this, oh man, I get a lot of emails and LinkedIn DMs and questions, and I can't even tell you people saying, "Oh, my friend's going to start a nonprofit. Can you talk to them?" I always tell them, don't do it, number one. And if you really are set on doing it, are you 100% unique? Like, is there no one else doing this in your area that's already established that you could maybe help or fundraise for or create a program for? Because the saturation of the actual physical incorporated nonprofits, I agree. I think that people have such big hearts and they're very well intentioned, but they're not looking around to say, is this something that another organization's already doing, but maybe I could help them do it better, or I could help create a program that would support it. So it's almost like, I mean, you wouldn't start I'm just thinking where I live, I live in the suburbs. Like, I wouldn't try to start like a mini Target, because why? Because Target is there and amazing. And I love Target and does it great, does it really well. But that doesn't mean I can't start like a little boutique store that's 100% unique. But I do have to understand the market. I have to understand my audience. I have to understand the distinct value that I'm providing. And also, we have to understand, like, when you start this kind of organization, fundraising is incredibly challenging, especially in this environment. I think, we're experiencing, I know 2022, a report just came out, the Giving USA report, that said 2022 was the worst giving on record, like the lowest percentage since they've been doing the report. And are you really ready to open an organization sort of in this climate? Like, are there other things that you could do? So it's just like starting a business. It really is. You have to have a plan, like almost like a business plan. You have to know the market. You have to figure out who your, quote unquote competitors are. And is it a really viable option and sustainable for the future? So, some tough love there for people that want to start a nonprofit. But I think there are many, many ways to do philanthropy and help people without creating an entirely new organization.
This is some really insightful information, Julia. I appreciate you sharing it.
Sure.
I want to let the audience know, people who are listening, the whole 25 listeners who have been retained so far into this conversation. If you are interested in asking questions to Julia, please raise your hand. I would be happy to bring you up. Okay, please
Yes.
remember that you are giving us verbally consent to record this conversation. Okay, we would be taking a quick break. Okay, and I would be getting back to you. Now, Julia, before we actually take a break, is
Sure.
there anything you feel the donors should be careful or they should keep an eye about a non-profit before donating their money? Things which you feel are fishy about a non-profit organization. I'm not saying everyone is doing it, but there might be
Mm.
people who may not have the right intentions. How can people navigate and be careful and so that they are donating and it reaches the right people? What would be your take on
Yeah.
that?
That's challenging because I want to give nonprofits the benefit of the doubt always, but there are certainly scams out there, especially scams on elderly people. Oh, it's unbelievably horrible. What I would say is, if they say that they are a 501c3 organization, you can look them up on the IRS website, look at their website, and then, even try to get them on the phone, like try to talk to somebody on the phone. So all of those things are completely reasonable and rational. Also see if any of your friends might know them and might be donating to them. So I do love to give nonprofits the benefit of the doubt. I think 99% of them are completely above board. But yeah, it's that 1% that you have to worry about, and they get all the news, of course. But just do your due diligence and trust your instincts.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's take a quick break, guys. I want to play a song so that we can have a sip of water, we can relax, and we'll start with Q&A. So people who have joined the stage, please
Great.
continue to be on stage. If anybody else would like to join, I think I can accommodate one more. We have to finish the show in the 90-minute mark, so I don't think I may be able to. Maybe one more person, if you're interested, raise your hand. I will be happy to bring you up. So let's take a break.
Feels the atmosphere. It's whether or not you listen, you still hear music. It's got the power to take you somewhere. It fills the atmosphere. It's whether or not you listen, you still hear music. It has the power to take you somewhere. Yourself just wanting more music. You're at its mercy soon as your feet touch the floor. And the rhythm is moving you as the wisdom's fine-tuning you. Music, ain't nothing better than a real high track. With those lyrics that bring us back.
Right. So let's start the Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed that lovely track which I just played.
I like that song.
So thank you. So let's actually start with Q&A. I don't know the exact sequence how people have joined. So LinkedIn does not sequence it properly at this moment of time. So I'm going to start with people randomly. So let's start with Angelica. Thank you so much for joining the conversation from the very beginning. So lovely to see you. Do you have a question or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
I do have a question. First of all, though, I want to thank you, Jason, for bringing me up, and also Julia for
Mm,
talking about this. I work with families. I work with a nonprofit also. It's called Head Start, and it helps
mm,
families that are underprivileged that can't afford uh, daycare for their children, and so we provide the food and the education while they're at work. So um, we just had a meeting yesterday about social media, and
mhm.
it's so true about nonprofits not having a big group of people, because we have a huge organization, because it's called NHA, and they have I think maybe about 10 other programs, but our biggest one is Head Start, and we service over 2,000 families. So it's pretty big, and we only have 3 people working in our
Wow.
marketing department.
Yep.
Um, and I see how it's hard for them to do everything. I cover Head Start, which is the um, 2,000 families, and they cover all the other programs. But I I see the problem. So we were talking about that yesterday. One of the things that they mentioned was, let's get some of the teachers to do some video, right?
Mhm,
And but like you mentioned, they're not really trained
mhm.
on how to write stories and how to do that stuff, and they're kind of overworked as
Yeah,
well. But
definitely.
and we're having a problem too, because it's hard to get people to work now. A lot of people aren't wanting to come and work as teachers. So that's another thing that we're trying to promote, is having teachers. So one of the things that we came up with is, let's do some videos showing how fun it is to work at our organization.
Mhm.
So I'm just putting it out there that maybe you have some ideas as to what we can do so that we can help our organization out. Thanks so much for bringing me up and letting me speak. Back over to you.
Well, thanks, Angelica. And I'm very familiar with Head Start. Love Head Start. It's such an important and vital program for so many. And I actually really like that idea of showcasing how rewarding it is to be a teacher, and how maybe how tough it is, but also how rewarding. So I wonder if you could do something around like the top 5 best things about working at Head Start. And then if you find those top 5 things, just making videos around that. Because what's hard to do is to go to the teachers and say, okay, tell me why you love working here. Because they're all going to say the same thing, or they're not going to know what to say. And they're going to get, it's sort of like analysis paralysis, like decision paralysis. Like, I don't want to decide. But if you say, oh, here's the top 5 reasons to work at Head Start, which one resonates with you? Or ask them something more specific, like, what is your favorite memory? Or how did you feel when you first started here? And how do you feel now? What's a story that you have, like, what's one of your favorite stories of working here? So the more leading questions you can ask them, the more specific questions that you can provide. And yeah, not putting it on them to have to do the video, because they're teaching, they are managing children, they are already doing 10,000 things. So maybe having a marketing person just doing a whole campaign, so it's not overwhelming. It can just be, here, we're going to take 5 videos, we're going to share them out, we're going to share them everywhere, and this is our campaign to try to get people inspired to work here. And also, it's not even just to get people to work there, it's helping people see what goes on behind the scenes, or it's helping donors and other people that might want to participate get a feel for your organization. Because like the only thing in marketing is caring liking, and trusting. So all of this content that you create, it's going to help people like you, trust you, and feel like you are, a good steward for their dollars. But I hope those are some ideas that you can work with. But I love the idea of keeping it light and inspiring and happy and fun. I think that's what people want to see on social media. It's hard to do.
Thank you so much. Love it.
That is
Back
so
over to
cool.
you.
Angelica, please do reach out to Julia because I think she can share in more tips. DM her directly, book a discovery call, and just brainstorm. Exchange ideas. You never know what might just work out. On a podcast, I think we can only do so much, like when it comes to communicating things. But I appreciate you being here. Please continue to be on stage. I want to say hi to my good friend Rose. Thank you so much for joining this awesome conversation. So lovely to see you and have you back on my show regularly. So, do you have a question for Julia, or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Thank you so much for having me on stage. I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I actually used to work for a nonprofit for employment services
Mm.
here in Ontario. But my question is not about nonprofits. It's more about marketing generally.
Mm.
So I see a shift happening where people are kind of moving away from text to video marketing. Especially with the explosion of TikTok and such. And I was wondering if you had any tips as to how to market effectively on video, especially when you're someone like me who's a solopreneur and doesn't have a big budget, so to speak, and is also very camera shy and self-conscious. So I was wondering if you had any ideas about that. Thank you.
That's a fantastic question. I'm also a solopreneur. Also, my whole family's from Ontario, so go Canada. My mom's side, half Canadian over here. And
Nice.
yeah, I know. Hopefully, I can get back actually, I'm going back for a wedding, but anyway, love Ontario. But what I think is the most challenging is to figure out how to do video without your face in it, because I agree. I don't want to constantly be putting on makeup. I was just telling Jason, I'm so excited this is audio. I was like, I don't want to constantly be video ready. I don't want to constantly be like trying to figure out how to be natural or like authentic on video, because it can be really tiring. But I recommend watching what other solopreneurs or other people in your space are doing, because what I've been seeing online, like a lot of other nonprofit consultants, they've been posting things like reels, but they're not even really in them. So it's a lot of just either like visual graphics or other people or even nature, but it's all around education. So for me, I think video marketing, figure out exactly what you want to be known for. And I can already see by your LinkedIn headline that you want to be known for LinkedIn. You want, unlocking your LinkedIn potential, profile strategist. Perfect. So what are some little tiny micro tips that you can share? Maybe going over some new announcements. I mean, LinkedIn always has new features coming out, and that could just be a Loom video. I don't know if you use Loom. It's a screen sharing software. So you could just share your screen and create like a little video with Loom and look at the profile or look at the features, talk about, some of the new things going on LinkedIn. It's all about what do you want to be known for? And then as you get more comfortable, maybe you'll get comfortable sharing, an Instagram story of you drinking your coffee in the morning or going for a walk with your dog, or those things sprinkled in, I think are really effective, because for people like us, like I said, caring, liking, trusting, they have to like us to work with us and they have to trust us. So if you have those little personal moments sprinkled in, maybe just like a book you're reading that you really like or a movie that you watched, it's hard to get the ball rolling. But once you sort of create your content calendar, like what are the little educational snippets that I can send And then what are the little personal moments maybe that I would be comfortable sharing like once or twice a month, and create that combination. But the good news for us is that off the cuff video just from your phone, that's what's really working. The polished, produced video, it works for some people, but I think for our purposes, we can just pick up our phone and turn it on, or just create something on Loom with some screen sharing. And I think that's, that's going to get the job done.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I honestly, Jason, this is your best one so far. I feel like Julia has
Yay!
offered so much value. So
Thank
much
you,
value in
Rose.
this conversation. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. I'm going to
Oh,
hop off.
thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for those kind words, Rose. All right, so let's welcome my good friend Leslie. Thank you so much for being here and supporting me regularly. I appreciate you joining this conversation. Do you have a question for Julia, or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Thank you, Jason. Sending love your way and hugs your way today. And yes, yes, I had a quick question. Hi, Julia. So I do a lot of nonprofit work in my area, and the nonprofit organization that I'm involved with is set up with a 501.
Mhm.
And it seems like they're having a lot of issues with people just distributing and reallocating monies that they might have, the small amount, to help support different projects that we're doing. There's a lot of people, target market of different audiences that we're helping. It could be like going into the schools, and it's all about just being awareness of eating healthier and the mental, physical health, and creating that balance.
Mhm.
But I noticed that the restructure, they really need a better foundation. So we have a woman who is amazing, works with 4 nonprofit organizations, but when it comes to the business aspects and be instrumental in getting grants, we kind of went in with blinders because that is not my background, is marketing.
Mm.
And we're just finding challenges. So how do you sit someone down that is do it all if nobody else is going to do it, and are active? And that's just the way life is, it seems like. So that's my question. And I know it's a big kind of open-ended question. So thank you.
You cut out, at least for me, for just a minute. So the question is, are you trying to sit down the executive director and
Yeah,
say, you got to focus?
and just say, if we're going to do this right, we need more exposure. We got to really think about a game plan for marketing,
Yeah.
to get that exposure locally in the community. We just sat down with the person that creates all of the fundraisers, the fairs in our area that shuts the streets down. They have festivals. I said, we got to get a booth. People don't know who really we are,
Mhm.
but it's hard for her to just release the reins and
Hmm.
get people in that really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. And that was my question. How do you
Mhm.
be the cheerleader who I am? I'm the optimist and I see the vision, but it's hard to get it going.
I think having as many specifics as possible. The story that I often tell is, because I do get this, I actually get a variation of this question a lot. And so you're not alone. But I always tell the story of when I was in high school and I wanted to borrow the car from my dad. I would have to give him like a 10-point plan. Okay. I couldn't say, I want to go to the mall. I would have to say, here's where I'm going. Here's who I'm going to be with. And of course, there were no cell phones. Here's I will call you on a payphone. Here's how much money it's going to cost, all of that. I would have to literally draw up a plan. And I think for your particular, this particular executive director, they probably need specifics. So like they know that they need to get the word out, but they don't know, like, okay, so you want to do a booth. How much does that cost? When do we need to get things together by? Do we need a table? Do we need flyers? Like, what are the specifics? So if you have maybe like 3 specific ideas, like say you want to have this booth, you want to do an event at the library, and you want to, start a blog. Those are just examples. giving very, very specific steps of how that's going to happen and like who's going to handle it and how much it's going to cost, how much time it's going to take. This will probably help this other person understand that, oh, this is doable. But it feels overwhelming right now because they don't know the steps. It's almost like, okay, we need to buy a house. Okay, well, that sounds so overwhelming to me. And some people really, especially a lot of people, if they're like mentally, neurologically divergent or have ADHD. I've worked with an executive director that had severe ADHD, ran the Essex Senior Center. She's actually a good friend of mine and she's lovely and she's very open with her diagnosis, but she just had such a hard time because she had so many ideas. So whittling down the ideas and saying, this doesn't mean we're not going to do all of them, but it just means here's the 2 or 3 we can tackle right now. And here's the game plan of how we're going to tackle them. Is that helpful?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. And good luck. And thanks for all the work you do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Leslie, please continue to be on stage. Okay, I want to say hi to Izu. Thank you so much. I see that you have joined my podcast for the first time, live stream. Okay, let's do a mic check quickly. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me, my friend?
Yes, loud and clear, my friend. Thank you so much. So I just want to let you know, people who are new, that this conversation is being recorded. So you are giving us consent to go ahead with the recording by being on stage. Okay, do you have a question or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
Yeah, I would say it's been a brilliant conversation ever since she started this conversation, right? I right. I got really interested about this conversation because I saw the storytelling aspect of it for effective non-profit marketing organizations. Yeah. So hi, Julia. I have already sent connection across to you. Great job. But I'd like to ask you this very important question about how storytelling um, connects to the nonprofits across the pond. So that we're not just talking about Canada, we're not talking about the States, we're not talking about the UK, we're not talking about connecting these parts of the continents and countries across to Asia, across to Africa, and the rest parts of the world. Do you have an idea if most of the principles you shared on this call this moment are also applicable to most of these countries? And how would you be able to explain the possibility for people coming from these other parts across the pond, from these other parts of the countries, to be effective in terms of their nonprofit marketing businesses with just a collaborative sort of question, leveraging storytelling and marketing. Let me know if you got my question. I'm just trying to throw a lot of words together here.
No, I think it's a great question. And it's really one of, cultural competency and understanding the culture where you're telling the story. I think it's actually a really good question. So, my experience, I did live in Senegal, in West Africa for 2.5 years. I was working with the US Peace Corps, and I found that storytelling was one of the most important ways to communicate. But I think you bring up a very important point where you have to understand the context of the group you're talking to, and you have to understand the nuances and not just sort of come in and say, okay, well, I'm American. This is the way we do it in America, and then expect it to work in, for instance, like a culture like Japan, or China, or like you were saying, any of the countries in Africa. Even in Australia, I was recently in Australia doing a storytelling presentation, and it's even very different in Australia, and in different cities and different regions of that country. So just doing your homework as a marketer and trying to learn about like just really listening, doing a lot of research, a lot of listening, and trying to figure out how that particular culture operates in terms of storytelling, because some of the stories we share here, in the US might not be appropriate to share in other cultures, in other countries. So I think it's a really important question. It's just something we have to do as marketers, especially if we're working with an international audience or an international organization. And the key there is just to have people that live and like are actually living in that culture and in that country, and not coming at it from, not trying to push our values onto sort of other countries. Does that make sense? But I think
Yeah,
it's a
that
great
makes
question. I don't necessarily have the answer. I just know what I would do personally, but it's definitely really worth exploring. Um, how do international nonprofits effectively do it? I think that'd be a great follow-up podcast. I'm gonna write it down actually to have on my podcast.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Julia. I think you answered my question because I'm also into the investigative society with the Al Jazeera. So when you mentioned Senegal, I got really interested because Senegal happens to be one of those African countries with largeness in terms of being able to tell very strategic stories that don't only connect the African ecosystem, but the global ecosystem. So that made a lot of sense for me. And I think you answered my question. And glad to connect with you,
Yes,
Julia.
I'd love
Justin,
to.
yeah, thanks a lot. Justin, I think I've seen you on Clubhouse before, and I yield the mic to you. And thanks a lot for having me on your platform. Cheers.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Nice to see you here also. Thank you so much. I would be happy to look at all the connection requests I've been getting. Guys, if you are listening down in the audience, please do not forget to follow me and Julia. That really helps us with the social media algorithms. It shows that our efforts which we are putting in is going to the right direction. It helps us to get a lot more exposure. My podcast gets traction, my business gets traction. It helps everyone. And if there is anybody who has joined the conversation who asked an interesting question, please follow them as well. All right, so moving on to the last person whom we have on stage, Paulette. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm so sorry if I butchered it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Paulette is good enough. Yep.
All right. So nice to have you. Do you have a question or would you like to contribute to this conversation?
I have 2 points really. The first one, thank you first of all for having me on stage, and again, I'm sorry for your loss, and nice to meet you, Julia. So I think it's the first time for both of you. So for me, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do, and I've been writing children's self-help books. They are for non-profit, or as my husband calls them, all for cost. They eventually will get, well, I know they are going to gain traction. I know they're going to either be picked up by a TV production company or something. I have such 100% belief in what I'm doing. So I have no question about that. Getting people to trust me has never been an issue, thank goodness. I think the topic is children's mental health, so that shows the caring. Likability is the fact that there's a toy within the story that has mental health help. So he's got like a little magic power, if you like, that is only your inner self, but it just helps you tap into your inner self. So I know that the numbers and the scores are on the doors, as they say. The thing that I wanted to bring, quite interestingly, I've had people from Australia, people from Canada, and the States, thank goodness. And one person said to me, "You spell mum wrong," and I was like, "No, you spell it wrong." And it's like quite funny. But the best part about it is if that's the only problem I have in the translation of the story, then that's fantastic. So that's a tick from my perspective. But the thing that I found, and I've only been on LinkedIn, I keep telling people I'm in my first trimester. It's really very, very early doors for me. And I started brand new as an author. I've left all my business and all my CEOs, MDs positions and everything else behind. I've started from scratch because I didn't want to bring 4,000 or 5,000 people with me who'd feel the object to buy the book just because I'm their friend. I wanted people to buy the book because it's going to help them. So I've been really specific about trying to chase the right kind of people, whether it's being the counselors, the psychologists, the children's mental health charities, the schools, the educators. I really have focused very, very hard on getting the right people to my table. And I hit 2,000 today, and it was extremely
Yay.
exciting. We had a big woohoo in the house, and no one knows what they were hooing about, but hey, we had a big woohoo.
That's
But
awesome.
the key thing I wanted to say is what I have found is people keep coming to me after I've been on stage and saying, "Hey, Paulette, could you talk to me about this? And how did you do that? And what would you do about this?" And I said, "Listen, I don't see that there should be competition in charities or
Mhm.
nonprofits. As far as I'm concerned, if we're doing this, we're doing it with heart.
Mhm.
Hearts first, money, dollars is second. So yes, we need dollars to make more books, unless of course my husband's extremely generous. But the point is I'm making is everybody I've helped, I've done it from heart. And then
Mhm.
I know I'll get that back at some point down the line, because that's how the world works, right? We scratch each
Mhm.
other back, and that's how it works. And so what I wanted to say is that as much as it can be challenging and it can be tough, I think there's so many people out there and so much knowledge and so much history and power and ability that we can tap into each other for free. We don't need to
Yes.
pay a lot of money for help, because there's help out there. And I mean, I didn't even know how to make a banner, so my dog is up there. But you know what? I've got a dog, and so that's good enough for me right now. I had
Mhm.
my motto, which is "What would Walter do?" as my face, and then someone said to me, "No, you must have your face." And I was like, "Oh gosh, quick, swap the face out." And this is how
Yes.
I've learned, is by people saying to me, "Don't do this, do that, do the other." And what I
Mhm.
wanted to say is everything you've said, Julia, is wonderful. But my big, big, big ask and my big take from all of this is ask each other, because we are a fantastic group of people. I've learned that in the last few minutes and the
Mhm.
last, just listening to you speak. There's so much heart and soul out there. Jason, we're all feeling for you, and we don't know your friend, but we're all breaking our heart for you, because we're all kind, honest, generous people who trust each other. And I think that's the key message for me today. My take is for everybody. Yes, it's nonprofit. Yes, we're all struggling here. And yes, we might not have the right people to do it. But you know what? There might be somebody else who'll do it for you. And they might do it for you for a price that they might not have done it for someone else. And I
Mhm.
think this is the message that I would love to get out. I wanted just to come on stage and say thank you, because I've listened, I've learnt, and I'll continue to learn, and I'll get better. And as I get better, I'll grow. And as I grow, I'll take more people with me. And that's my message to you two, is we're all about sharing and caring, and let's just do more of it. Thank you.
Yes. Paulette, that is what's called an abundance mindset. So thank you. And I think so many of us operate from a scarcity mindset, and we do need to operate more from an abundance mindset. Everything that you said. Thank you. That was wonderful. So inspiring.
Thank
Thank
you.
thank you so much, Paulette, for joining this conversation. We hope to see you again on next week. We are reaching the end of our show. I wanted to personally thank all the 14 listeners who have sticked with this content till the very end. I sincerely appreciate it. It means that I am not putting across something which is boring. People are
Mhm.
liking it. That's kind of validation. All right, so Julia, I wanted to ask
Yes.
you one funny question. I don't think we have time to do the entire rapid fire round. Okay, but let
Oh,
me.
I love those questions though. But
Okay,
yes,
okay.
whatever
Let's.
you need to do.
Okay, so let me actually play a sound effect first. Okay, let me try that again. The volume was a little low, so let's try that again. Anna, am I the only person who is hearing it low?
It's fine.
All right. Let's actually quickly do a rapid fire question. Okay, if non-profit marketing had like a theme song, what song do you think would capture the essence of this sector and its unique challenges and triumphs, according to you?
Oh, I thought about this. So, Fight Song by Rachel Platten.
All right. Fight song by Rachel. Who?
Platten. You know that one? It's like, this is my fight song. I can't sing.
I wish I could have played it, guys, but I don't want copyright strikes.
It's a big, when you hear it, you'll know it. You will have heard it before.
I'm going to listen to this song once we finish. Okay, next question. If nonprofit marketing can involve uh, tackling serious and complex issues, have you ever had a humorous or unexpected encounter where someone misinterpreted the seriousness of the cause or campaign?
So one of the funniest mistakes that was made, one of my clients, they're the food bank. So they sent out direct mail letters asking for donations, and they sent placemats, like little paper placemats, and you would write on the placemat, a little note of encouragement, and then you'd send in your check with the placemat. So in the letter, they said, we really want everyone to return, but they meant to say placemat, but they said, we would love for you to return your placenta. And it was big type. And I don't know who the typo, but people loved it. They thought it was hilarious. We got a lot of calls, emails about it. So it just goes to, everyone was completely horrified when it happened, but it just goes to show that, you got to take things with a grain of salt sometimes. And people really responded because they read it and they thought, what? Return your placenta? And then we did get a lot of donations from that. But that just, you got to take the good and take the bad and roll with the punches.
That was really nice. I appreciate you sharing it. Okay, let's see. Can we extend by 5 minutes, Julia? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, because I have this one common question which I like to ask everyone on stage. So let's start with you first, Julia. If you could create a non-profit theme board game, what would you name it?
I was thinking about this. I was thinking I would call it Philanthropy Monopoly. And instead of the goal being to get the most money, you have to give away all your money.
Oh, okay.
Because Monopoly, you got to bankrupt everybody else and get all the properties and get all the money. And I love Monopoly, but we just reverse it and have Philanthropy Monopoly.
Okay, so let's ask the same question to others who are on stage, and let's try to be quick because we have to wrap up the show shortly. So, Angelica, if you're there, would you like me to repeat that question?
Yes, repeat the question. That way it'll give me more time to think.
Okay, if you could create a non-profit theme board game, what would you name it? Monopoly is out of the question because Julia has already reserved it.
I really like that one, by the way. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm on the spot here. Okay, let me think. I would name it. It's I don't want to. Oh my goodness, it's hard to think of something.
That's
on
okay.
the
It's
spot.
okay. You can vote for Julia's name.
What about Clue? Do you play Clue?
No, but that's a game where you give somebody a clue for something, right?
That's a game where there's a murderer, but you don't know who it is. So maybe it could be like development director, Clue, finding the donor. I don't know. We love board games in my house. We play a lot of them.
Games are good for the brain. Okay, let me think. I like the donor thing, so let's
Oh, Scrabble. Sorry, now I'm thinking of all of them.
She's really good. She's giving away all the options.
Life. You ever play the game of life?
I'm gonna call it really simple: the Dream Team Scheme.
Oh.
That's good.
You coming up with all of these schemes. Thank you. Back over to you.
Awesome, awesome, lovely. Let's hear from Leslie. Leslie, if you had to give it like a board game name for a board game, what would that be for a nonprofit?
Oh my gosh. Persevere your passion
Ooh,
to
That,
something.
that's good.
How's that?
that's
I'm
great.
usually good at that.
That is super cool. Thank you so much for that, Leslie. All right, let's hear from Izu. Izu, do you have like a board game name? Can you think of any ideas you like to share, throw in? Izu might be away from the mic, so let's circle back. So, Paulette, do you have a board game name in mind?
Yeah, I did have, but somebody pinched it because it was going to be Scrabble. But what I think I will go with is Money Trap. So instead of
Hmm.
Mouse Trap, we'll have Money Trap, and we're going to trap as much money as we can for our charity.
I love that. I love Mousetrap too.
That is super cool. So we are actually reaching. We have already reached the end of our section. The session today's session. I want to give Julia the opportunity to speak about her organization, her company, her vision. So Julia, can you help my listeners understand how you can help them as a non-profit marketing expert?
Oh, sure. Well, I offer consulting services, but mostly I offer online trainings and courses and small group workshops. So if you just go to my website or connect with me on LinkedIn, DM me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to help you out. But it's jcsocialmarketing.com, and there's a lot of free stuff on there. There's my blog, my podcast, and some of my speaking engagements, and some ways that you can work with me. So I really help nonprofits navigate the digital world, the marketing world, and help them really elevate and amplify their cause.
I appreciate that very, very much, Julia. I have all her social links, website, and everything listed under the event details. Not event details, but event comments. So if you go click on the three dots, view event details, you should be able to find it. It also has links towards my podcast. I also have linked to the next week's show. So season 14, episode 16. This is going to be my 106th podcast episode. It's an interesting subject, mastering Microsoft Office 365 with Sharon Gordon. She's MOS and COLB certified. We would be having a conversation and deep diving into the whole Microsoft productivity suite and how it helps, what it does, what she does, stuff like that. It's going to be interesting. I would highly encourage you to join that conversation. It's going to be July 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, the link is there. Please RSVP for that event. Now, Julia, if you want to leave our listeners with one thing they can take away
Mhm.
from this whole conversation, what would it be?
Well, actually, I want to echo something Paulette said. I think done is better than perfect. Just try it, get it done, do something different, get out of your comfort zone, and understand that there are so many people out there willing to help and willing to shoulder the burden. So that's really what I would leave you with.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. I think it's an amazing quote. Done is better than perfect, and it makes a lot of sense. So, to all my beautiful listeners who are out there listening either to the replay or the live version, I wanted to personally thank you all for sending me those heartfelt messages, trying to support me, what I shared in the beginning of my show, and to all my incredible and lovely friends who are with me right now on stage and the ones who I regularly talk to. I really, really appreciate your support and everything which you guys do to inspire me, to help me move ahead in life, to be a better person, better individual, brother, everything. So thank you so much, very kindly, Julia. I think this is one of the best conversation I had on LinkedIn so far. You
Thank
are
you.
an incredible person. I've learned so many things from you today. So, on that note, please, guys, take care of yourself. Have a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. If you have your loved ones, please stay close to them. If you have any sort of hate, anger with anyone, see if you can resolve them. Okay, you never know how many days are left, how long, people would be out there. So show compassion, remove your ego and pride. That's all I have to say. Take care of yourself. Have a nice day, guys.